And today we're going to talk about AWS and networking. What we're mainly going to focus on is the AWS gateways, VPCs, and subnets. Then I'm going to show you again how to create an EC2 instance utilizing those newly created resources. So let's get started. Alright, we're going to go ahead and click services here, and we're going to click on VPC. Now VPC is Virtual Private Cloud is what it stands for. It's going to be where we're going to basically set up everything that's going to tie to our systems. Alright, we're going to go ahead and click Internet Gateway. Internet Gateway is basically just a gateway to the internet. If you've ever done any type of networking before, you would have a gateway that connects you to everything else. This is basically that. So we're just going to give it a name here, and we're going to call it YouTube Toots, just to go along with everything else, so we can identify it easily. All right, and we can see that it's set up there and it's in a detached state. We basically have to make a VPC to attach to it. So we've got the gateway. We now need to attach a virtual private cloud to it. So basically the virtual container for all of our systems. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click VPC here, and we're going to click Create VPC. Now we're going to give it a name, again, YouTube 2, so we can keep track of everything that's connected to this. And then we're going to do an IPv4 CIDR block. Now, if you don't know what this is, you can Google it. I'm not going to go into a huge definition, but it's basically taking a subnet mask and making it into a simpler form. So you can identify the block that you want to take here. So we're just going to go with the default that it recommends. So 10.0.0/24. We're not going to do an IPv6 CIDR block. I'd only recommend that if you actually need them. I believe they do cost. And then tenacity, we're just going to leave at default. We're going to click yes, create. It's creating it for us, and there we go. We've got our YouTube Toots. So we've got our VPC and we've got our gateway. Now we're going to go into our subnet here, and we're going to create a subnet in that VPC. I'm going to go ahead and hit create subnet, and I'm going to name it YouTube Toots like the last one. Now we can select VPC as YouTube, because that's where we want to create it. Now we can see the CIDR block that we have in the VPC. Now we can assign a CIDR block inside this subnet, so a smaller one. So it can only be equal to or smaller than the current CIDR block. So what I'm going to do here is just choose an availability zone, and I'm going to select 28 for my CIDR block, which should give me 11 IPs. Okay, you can see there the available IPs. It's actually listed off to the side that we have 11 in that CIDR block. All right, now that we've got that done, we're going to go ahead and do a security group. Now, when we do our security group, I'm basically going to take the default web app server, and I want to make one just like it off of the default. So I'm going to select create security group. I'm going to give it the name of default app server, and I'm going to give it the same group name and description and assign it to the YouTube Toots VPC. I'm going to go ahead and hit create. Now we're going to add a couple of custom rules here. I'm going to select SSH as my first rule. And I'm going to select the source of my IP address. Now again, these are in a CIDR block form that you have to put them in so that you can wildcard IPs that connections can come from. All right, we're going to add a new custom rule here, and we're going to go with HTTPS. I'm going to do 0.0.0.24. Now what that will do is deny everything from this. This is just a placeholder until I get an Apache server on here. So I am just going to put in that CIDR to block everything currently, but to put a placeholder that I can change later to allow it in. I'm going to do the same thing with HTTP. So I'm going to do it with port 80, the same exact thing. And then we're going to go and create a new EC2 instance. Now we've already done this before, so you guys should be familiar with it. We're going to go and click AWS Marketplace, going to do CentOS 7, going to select it. I'm going to go ahead and select a T2 micro. I'm going to select now my networking. I'm going to select my VPC of YouTube Toots and select YouTube Toots and use the subnet settings, disable. I don't want to select a public IP at this time. General purpose SSD. All right, we're just going to move through this quickly. You've already seen it in the previous tutorial. If you haven't, you can always go back and watch that tutorial on how to create this. So I'm just finishing this up and it's launching the instance now. And then